You're in the right place. This is the Eatfluencer Podcast, and I'm your host, Dr. Maggie Landis. Together, we are going to unpack everything about eating and discover the what, when, and how that will let you lead your best life. This is not your doctor's conversation about nutrition. Today is when you can start to love eating again. Let food be food and you be you. Get ready to get eatfluenced. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Eatfluencer Podcast. I'm Maggie Landis. I'm glad you're here today. We are on episode 46. Today's episode is called To Supplement or Not to Supplement. And if you're new here and you're not sure what I'm all about, what this podcast is all about, let me take just a moment to tell you. I'm a physician and a public health nutritionist by training, but I now am a diet culture disruptor, and I work as an educator, a coach for women, and really am trying to elevate the message that diets don't work. Weight and health are not the same thing, that you have a ability to have a relationship with food that serves you perhaps better than the one you have now. And I want to be the person to show you that based on evidence, of course. And today's episode, I do some shows that are a little more about the psychology of eating and about our relationship with food and our emotional health. Sometimes they're a little more sciencey and nerdy, and today it's going to be the latter. Number one, because I can't resist science, and I am a objective, scrutinizing cynic of a practitioner, and I go where the evidence goes. But this also is a important question to understand about supplements. It's one that I get asked a lot. In fact, just this week, somebody in my private Facebook group asked this very question, and it was very simple. It was just, should we be using supplements and vitamins or not? I mean, that was the question, and it's a good question. So I want to get into that a little bit today. I did, of course, respond in the Facebook group, but I thought it was deserving of a whole entire podcast. So we're going to talk about that today. And let me tell you, first of all, before we get into the show, if you are looking to continue these conversations similar to this, and you want to be in a supportive private community of women who are leaving diet culture behind and doing the work, boots to the ground, to once and for all get clarity with nutrition and health and food, I want you in the Facebook group. That's what we do there. It is free. All you need to do is send me a message. The link is in the show notes today. And I will get you an invitation and pop you right into the group, because these conversations are important in community. It's great that you're hearing it from me, but it's really sort of supercharges the mission when everybody is asking questions, participating, and really moving all of us collectively out of diet culture. So let's get into the show today. The first thing I have to sort of lay out explicitly, which may be news to some of you and may not to some of you, is what is a nutritional supplement or a dietary supplement anyway? When we say, are you taking a supplement, what does that even mean? Well, so the definition is that it's a product added to the diet, and the definition that the FDA says is normally taken by mouth. Well, yes, I hope it is normally taken by mouth. I would say almost exclusively or exclusively taken by mouth, but it contains a dietary ingredient, and that can be a macronutrient, that can be a micronutrient, that can be an enzyme, that can be a lot of different things. And as you can see, that is a big, very huge, giant umbrella term. There's also this kind of gray area between, where is the border between a fortified food product that's really food and a dietary supplement? And what fortified means in the food industry is that something is added that wasn't there to begin with, which is different than enriching something. But fortifying would be like adding calcium into orange juice, okay, because it wasn't there to start with. So, using that example, if we had orange juice with calcium added, is that just fortified orange juice, or is that a quote calcium supplement? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. That's where this is really gray, because obviously there is a purpose, a public health purpose to fortification that's happened in our food supply over the last, 80, 100 years. There's a reason that they started adding, vitamin D to milk and, calcium to different things and folate and iodine and all sorts of things. But for the purposes of this discussion, we're not going to go in the weeds focusing on fortified foods, because that's really kind of a separate issue. And, I'm not talking here about calorie supplementation like a, cachectic cancer patient who's drinking Ensure, because they can't eat solid food. Like we're not talking about that kind of supplementation. Those are very specialized cases. What we're talking about today is supplements. Regular, average people like you and me buying and consuming supplements, something that's not a food staple. So what we're talking about here, it could be pills, it could be powders that are added to drinks, it could be shakes, it could be bars, it could be a lot of things. And it is a lot of things. This supplement industry is big business. Big business. The latest statistic that I could find on this is that the global dietary supplement market is valued at about $140 billion. That's $140 billion. That was in the year 2020. And it is growing at a rate around 8 to 9% per year that they expect over the next decade. So massive behemoth business. And like everything we talk about here, I'm not going to tell you, not to spoil the whole thing, but I'm not telling you it's bad. I'm not telling you it's good. I'm not telling you you should take supplements. I'm not telling you you shouldn't. But what I want to do here is present a framework for you to critically think about your participation and decide if you want to stay there or not. That's it. The same way I approach diet culture and weight loss and all the things, I'm not against the people who want to participate. If you are willingly participating under your own volition, that is your prerogative to do so. But what I'm here to do is scoop up and help out the 98% of the other people who are participating in all these activities without doing any amount of critical thinking about why they are, or whether or not it serves them, or whether or not they even wish to continue. So, my whole model of teaching is not giving you the, quote, right answer. It's about giving you the right, objective, evidence-based information, and then you find the right answer that applies to you. And this episode about supplements is not going to be any different, but I hope you'll stick with me, because I think the way that we're going to sort of unravel this is going to make sense. And there's really 3 questions that we have to ask ourselves to make an informed decision about this. Number 1 is, are they safe? Number 2 is, are they effective? And number 3 is, are they worth it? Now, if you feel like you can answer a affirmative yes to all 3 of those questions, then you've made an informed decision and you can participate, with a good conscience. If you say no, or I don't know, to one or more of those questions, then maybe we need to ask more questions or do a little more learning so that we can really separate the wheat from the chaff here. But let's start with the biggest, most important one that I want to spend the most time on, because it is of critical importance. Is it safe? Are they safe? Right? That is, if the answer is no, then the rest of it doesn't even matter. So we're going to start there. And here's the thing that you may not realize. And this is, I'm going to read this directly from the FDA website, okay? The Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act of 1994 amended the previous Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, and it created a new regulatory framework for the safety and labeling of dietary supplements. And in bold-face font, here's what it says. FDA is not authorized to review dietary supplement products for safety and or effectiveness before they come to market. Period. Oh, that, if you don't know that already, that was worth the price of admission. We have to understand dietary supplements are not medications. They're not. They are not vetted like medications. They are not researched like medications. They are not produced like medications. They are not, safety checked like medications. They are not labeled like medications. They are not medications. So, to go on, it's not a total free-for-all, although it's close. What the FDA says is that the manufacturers and distributors of the dietary supplements are responsible for making sure their products are safe before they go to market. They are also responsible for determining that their labeling is accurate and truthful. Okay. Can you imagine what can go wrong here? Hello. So we're having the people producing the supplements who have all the skin in the game to sell as many as possible, to have a reach into their potential audience, into their market as far as possible. And they're responsible for monitoring the safety, labeling, quality checking. I think that is problematic. And you can see why. Now, the FDA can take action after a supplement reaches the market if there are false and misleading, sort of claims made against, there's claims made that there's false and misleading advertising. They may take action if there's unsafe, things happening and there's bad outcomes. But that's not necessarily the best model for safety. So, just understand that, all right? And I'm not uniformly saying don't ever take any supplements, but what I'm saying is know that they are not medications, they are not regulated like medications, and they probably won't be in our, society, at least not anytime in the near future. So, but here's the thing, there are some risks to taking them. There are some supplements that have significant biologic effects, that have active ingredients that could potentially complicate your health, cause harmful, even, in some cases, life-threatening consequences. They could be, causing unwanted effects with other medications, whether those are prescription or over-the-counter. The combination of supplements with more supplements, and we get into a tricky situation where people likely to take one supplement are far more likely to take other supplements. And so you end up with this kind of jungle of things, and you're looking for safety data on it. Well, where are you finding that? And do the people producing the data have a vested interest in you thinking it's safe? Do they have a buck to make off of this? Do you understand the science? Can you discern the scientific literature? Or are you getting it from somebody who does? Are they looking at certain things in complete isolation? Are they looking at them in combination with other things? I mean, it's extremely complex. So it's not as easy as just seeing an ad, believing what they say, and grabbing a bottle at, Walgreens, and your health is better. You really have to see where the information is coming from. Is it recognized by scientific experts? Is it in a peer-reviewed journal? Is it reproducible? The key thing about research is it needs to be reproducible. And that is how, causative conclusions can be made, is when it happens over and over and over again. It's not just a statistical anomaly that one thing showed one result one time. Who's running the, sort of the publications? Is it an academic institution? Is it the government? Is it a private corporation? Is it a medical community? I mean, it's like all this stuff is important. And I don't expect the average Joe Blow public to be able to figure all that out, but you need to ask somebody who can before you make a potentially big decision about adding supplementation or continuing supplementation in your personal health regimen. So the other thing to know about the safety piece is, if you figure out that, this study has somehow shown a benefit that you desire in this subject population, is what they were studying equivalent to what you are getting if you go buy it at the store or on Amazon or whatever? See, that's a key piece, because, like as an example, if you're reading a research study where they had a very tightly controlled group of study subjects and they were giving them, let's say, magnesium or whatever, calcium supplements or something, but they're giving like pharmaceutical grade isolated elemental medication, and then you're going and buying a drink that, quote, contains magnesium. So that's different. Those are two different things, and that's really apples to oranges. I mean, one does not really support or refute kind of the other. So be cautious about the differences. And, I do think there's probably some like rank order, if I could say it like that, in safety. And the best way to sort of ballpark that rank order would be to see how dramatic and significant their claims are, right? If it sounds too good to be true, well, number one, it probably is. But if it even sounds like a very major result that they are, promising or saying that they will deliver, and it's going to change your biology or your physiology or your health in some extremely significant way, if it's claiming to, prevent or reverse some serious health condition, there's probably more risk in that. If it sounds like a little tweak and it's kind of a little drop in the ocean, then it's probably more likely to be kind of a lower stakes thing in the terms of safety is concerned. I mean, it's different to take something that has added vitamin D to improve your bone density. That's pretty soft and generic, versus like, take this supplement to, protect yourself against the development of breast cancer ever. I mean, that's a really different claim. So that brings us to the second question. So the safety, and I spent a lot of time talking about safety because that is the first question. It really has to be first. I mean, safety always has to be first. Safety first, right? And once you've gotten past that, if you can potentially get past that, then the next question is it effective? Is the supplement effective? Because frankly, if they're not effective, even if we do decide it's safe, or at least within our level of risk tolerance, then what's the point, right? I mean, if there's no results, there's no effectivity, then there's really no reason. So the problem is figuring this out. This is very muddy water. I mean, nutrition science is so complicated to conduct, so complicated to really delineate what is causing what, because there is so many compounding variables over time. And in nutrition science, we're looking at very, very, very long-term outcomes. I mean, generally, that's what we want to do, is we want to prevent having diabetes in 20 years, or prevent us from having macular degeneration in our 60s or 70s or whatever. We're not talking about something that's going to happen to us next week. So, the longer that time is that we are looking for a result, the more and more challenging and kind of dirty the research is. That's just the nature of it. It's complicated. The other thing, too, is there's a sort of a selection bias when you start talking about nutritional supplementation, because there is only a certain part of the population that has the desire, the interest, the money, and the access to participate in nutritional supplementation. So we are not necessarily representing all people in that study group. And the other thing too, like we talked about, is, is it a specific element, a specific enzyme, a specific micronutrient that's being studied in isolation, but then what's being marketed is a combination product that's, not a pharmaceutical grade isolated element. That really makes a lot of difference. And then there's a lot of things that can't be controlled in studies that are sort of social studies. That's not the right word, but over the course of time, when we're talking about what are people eating and buying and putting into their bodies and how that affects their health, there is social stigma, there's emotional health, there's healthcare access, there's the quality of healthcare delivery, there's, socioeconomic divisions. There's so many variables that really, frankly, can't be controlled for. They just can't be, mathematically removed from the equation. So it's just not a clean science in people. And studies in test tubes and studies in a couple people and studies in entire populations of people are, three very different animals. So just being aware of that, just being aware. And then here's another thing we need to talk about is the bioavailability of supplements, because this is what bioavailability means is, can your body absorb and utilize, put into action the thing. Okay, so we use the word bioavailability in science for nutrients, for medications, for anything that has to be absorbed and then taken up and metabolized by the body. And the micronutrients in food and the micronutrients in supplements are different. The truth of the matter is that nature knows what it's doing. Nature has micronutrients and macronutrients, for that matter, in food for our bodies to receive it in a very specific way. And the context of where those components of food are make them differential bioavailability, meaning that the fiber content, the water content, the fat content, the cellulose content, all these things that are part of the structure of the things we eat affect whether we get the iron out of it, or whether we get the calcium out of it, or whether we get the vitamin B12 out of it. And it varies widely. I'm not talking like just little tiny changes. The body is so much smarter than us, really, truly, and smarter than certainly a factory of supplement production. The body can change, it's dynamic, so it can change its ability to absorb and utilize these nutrients depending on its needs. So the body really knows what it needs and has mechanisms and feedback systems to then prioritize those needs. And it's trying to tell us, if we stop dieting, that's the whole, let me step back for just a second, rewind. So the whole issue with dieting is it is a practice of us continuously telling our body we know better and making every single one of these decisions about eating an intellectual decision. And if we can stop doing that and stop the micromanaging and allow all foods, allow our bodies to work, our body will actually direct us to eat a widely varied complement of foods and nutrients over time. It's like so much more dynamic than we can even try to simulate by picking out really specific information, taking it out of context and, applying it to everybody in the universe and trying to micromanage our nutrition. The reason that you can sort of tell, like, my lean on supplements is it's kind of a micromanagey practice. It's kind of a testament to, we're going to try to outwit and outsmart the body, and here's how we do it. And all these people that produce the supplemental products, like, have a big, skin in the game. But I'm not saying nothing is worthwhile. There are some very effective things that are very safe, that have very excellent data to support it. All right. So, like, one that everybody probably is familiar with is folate supplementation for women that are about to conceive or in the first trimester of pregnancy. There is a very well established correlation between folate deficiency and neural tube defects. There is. So taking folate, making sure your folate stores are good, and continuing to supplement your folate intake, that, pre-pregnancy and early pregnancy is safe, it's effective, and it's recommended. And that's why we tell people to do it. But that's a real clear example that I think is more of the exception rather than the rule. I don't want you to think I'm against supplements. My whole point is that I just think a lot of people are doing it blindly, have no even second thought about whether they're safe, what they're for, whether the problem that they theoretically solve even applies to you. And so we get to the last question is, are they worth it? Well, this is short and simple. You get to decide. Once you've determined to your level of scrutiny it's safe and effective, does it apply to you? Will it improve your health? Is it addressing your problem? Is it within your means to afford it, to implement it in your life? Is it a major burden to you? What is universally true is that no supplement replaces food. And so the question is, is this just some icing on the cake, or is your money that you're spending on supplements better spent on higher quality food? I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's better spent taking a Zumba class. Maybe it's better spent, doing something else. I don't know. You get to decide. But, the summary, the takeaway is that if you're supplementing with something for no real specific reason, for no personalized problem, without a diagnosis, without a sort of clinical directive that you need it, without knowing that it's safe or effective or even worthwhile, and you're spending time and money on this, just pause. Just put it on pause for a second and think, okay, is this what I want to do to move the needle in my health? Move the needle for my health. And it might be. It totally might be. But you need to think about what you're doing. You get to decide. That's the best part. So I hope that this has cleared up some confusion. And, certainly this is the micronutrient metabolism is like a very complicated biochemical subtopic that we're not going to unpack everything here, but just try to find the best objective evidence that you can and make sure particularly make sure that the source isn't biased. And I mean that the person telling you the information or giving you the information does not have a secondary gain from you agreeing with them. If there's the people, this is where the FDA, I think, is just, they've just set this up to be this really complicated and, almost impossible landscape to navigate, because the people producing and selling the products are the ones responsible for maintaining the safety and the labeling and telling us what they do. Well, that doesn't seem right to me. And there's a reason that they don't do that with pharmaceuticals, because it's frankly confusing and even dangerous, perhaps. So anyway, I hopefully have cleared up a little bit. Encourage you to give pause, think critically about the decisions you're making for your health. And if you want to ultimately take vitamins and supplements, take vitamins and supplements. But make sure there's a reason. Make sure that there's some safety data. Make sure that they're efficacious for you in your life. All right. We're at the end here, but I want to make sure these conversations are happening all the time. Conversations like this every day in my private Facebook group, and I would love you to be part of that. As I mentioned, the link is in the show notes if you need an invitation, or you can reach out to me on any of my social media platforms and I will get you that invitation. I also invite you to leave a rating and a review on the podcast. It'll take a couple of clicks and it would really help get this message to more people. I look forward to continuing this conversation with you. However you wish to connect, let me know. New podcasts come out every single Wednesday. Thanks for joining me today. Until next time. Thank you so much for being here today. If you love what you've learned, follow me on social media at Maggie Landis MD, and you'll never miss a thing. You can also check out my website at maggielandismd.com and sign up to be part of our community of eaters. Thanks again for stopping by. We'll talk again soon.